What's going on, guys? This is the Wisdom Matrix, and this is going to be part 2 to my unveiling the ego structures. And I'm going to be clarifying some things because I didn't do a very good job of explaining some things, and I found some new insights as well that it clarified what I was trying to say. I may end up just deleting that other video later on or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'm just going to start for the beginning so that, nobody has to watch part 2 or part 1 of it. But if you do want to watch part 1, you can do that too. But basically, your ego believes that it's real. That's what I didn't clarify before. Your ego believes that it's real. It doesn't believe that it's a thought essence. That was a mischaracterization. That was what I was describing is what the ego actually is. The ego is a thought essence. It's a concept. It's a super mega concept. But when you're entangled inside of the ego, you believe that you're real. That the ego is real. I'm not saying that you yourself, your actual self isn't real. You're real, but your ego isn't. Your ego is it's kind of like, what you really are is like awareness. Becoming aware. And what happens is you become fused with your ego. And that's what makes the ego believe that it's real. That's what makes you believe, that you are the ego. And this creates a lot of problems, a lot of reasons why suffering happens is because you identify with this ego. When in actuality, the ego is just a concept. The ego is sort of, amalgamation of all the thought essences that you've ever had, that you believe. Somebody called it the web of beliefs. Your ego is the web of beliefs, but it believes that it's real. That's part of the web of beliefs. That's one of the biggest illusions that, you have. You necessarily, like the ego you, which is like what you are at this point in time, because you're entangled in it, most likely, unless you've freed yourself, in which case you're probably not even watching this video anyways, because you're off and somewhere else doing something different. But the ego believes that it's real, but you believe that you're real. The concept you. And so what happens, why this is because your awareness is like wrapped inside of you, inside of this concept. So it doesn't see that it's that what it's actually in isn't actually real. It's a concept. And you make this assumption because, well, you don't even really make this assumption. It just kind of happens. You don't do it consciously or anything. I mean, you do later, but this you real that you are. I mean, in a way, you are real, like in the sense that you're, you have a mind reality, and that's real. But if you look at it and you try and like dig into it, to what you are, through this thought essence. If you look into the thought content and into the thought essence, basically you'll find just a bunch of concepts, which is what you believe that you are. You believe you're real, but if you go down into it, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. You don't have you have an experience, but that experience is overlaid is being taken over by a concept. That experience, all of your experience that you're having right now, like if you're sitting down somewhere, all of that is being taken over by a concept that you call you. That's the best way to describe it. And this concept doesn't think it's a concept. It thinks real. It thinks it's real. And in a sense, it is real. It's it's there, but it's not, the actuality. It's not, It's hard to explain, because when you get down to it, it is real, like in a subjective sense of, the mind. Your own mind is real. But the mistake you make is by thinking that you are completely and utterly, real, like your experience, what you are actually experiencing. But what's actually happening is that experience is happening, and you are putting your ideas of you are experiencing on top of that. That's what you're doing. That's what we're all doing here. And there's nothing wrong with doing this, by the way. This is not me judging anybody or anything. This is just what is. This is just what's happening. And I've said before that we shouldn't get rid of the ego. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do think that getting rid of a lot of the identification with the ego is a necessary thing. And that's because a lot of the problems stem from the fact that you are identified with the ego. It's not even that you're identified with the ego. I mean, when we use words like identify, you usually use it in like the conscious sense. Like, I identify this object. But when you're identified with the ego, it's not really even in a conscious way. It's a unconscious, ego-driven way. Because the ego is unconscious, pretty much. It's not. I mean, I don't know if I want to say unconscious, but yeah, it's not really conscious because it's a concept. You are conscious, but you are not a concept. You are awarenessing. Like a good way of, okay, so let me try and give you like a way of understanding this that's, based in like your experience right now. Like, say let's say you're sitting down right now or something, right? The idea of your sitting down is a concept you're overlaying over your experience of sitting down, of on a chair, the feeling of your butt in the chair. And this sounds very not profound when I say it this way, but when in actuality it's very profound, because you don't see how entangled you are into reality. Because what reality really is awareness. Awareness. What are you aware of right now? What is that? Are you experiencing, or is awareness awarenessing? Another way of thinking about this is that all awareness is like all of the sounds that you hear isn't actually you hearing sounds. It's awareness, being aware of itself. It's very profound, but very hard to understand if you haven't had an awakening. I'm not saying I'm fully awake or anything. I just had a bit of an awakening, and I'm not even sure how much of an awakening it was. I don't know if it was full awakening or not, but it was an awakening that made me go, wow. It was so profound that it took me some time to kind of, see, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Ironically, or contradict, or something like that. I'm trying to figure it out with the concept, which isn't really a good way of doing it, but it's a way of, the reason why I'm doing that is so that I can try and explain it to you, so you can maybe have like a sense of this, because it's a very interesting phenomenon. But yeah, any so-called experience that you have isn't actually like you experiencing it. It's awareness. It's just awareness. Awareness of being aware of itself. Even saying awareness, being aware of itself, isn't really a right way to say it, because awareness isn't a multiple thing. It's a singular thing. Awareness is everything. All of reality is awareness. It's basically just a huge mind awarenessing. It's not an ego. It's an awareness. It's an intelligence. Not a a thought-based intelligence necessarily, but it's an intelligence of awareness, because awareness. Most people think that intelligence is something that happens in the mind with thoughts, and oh, I'm intelligent because I can think all these things and I can debate really well, and I've gotten a bunch of Nobel prizes because I'm a good scientist or something. That's not really intelligence. What they actually did is they became aware of something. Awareness itself is an intelligence. Awareness itself is all there is. All there really is. So when you're aware of the concept that is you, awareness is being aware of itself, because that concept still has a bit of awareness in it, and that awareness is why you're so entangled with that concept that is you. And that is what you consider to be reality. But it's not absolute reality. It's not complete. I mean, there are some parts of it that are true, but there are some parts that are, not true. And this brings me to another point. I actually found that I was wrong about some things, because I said to myself, I told all of you a lie. Well, not really a lie. I didn't realize it was a lie, but it's an inaccurate statement. And basically it has to do with the fact that, the ego you shouldn't try and get rid of the ego. Which is, I don't know if you should get rid of the ego necessarily. Oh, for God's sake. I have to check that later. Didn't. Oh well, I'll check in a second. Anyways, the point is that this awareness is what's happening. Um, all of your, experiences are just awarenessing, which is why it's important to strengthen your awareness, because it's what reality is. Let's see. It's a very weird thing, but it has, it's so profound that I can't really explain how profound it is, because it seems very out there and, insane probably if you hear this, but it's actually like, very profound. Let me deal with this for a second. And basically, if you guys haven't seen the video, the most important thing you'll ever hear, a content essence or a thought essence is basically that which is beyond the thought. Basically, let's say you have a thought like, I don't know, and I need to go to a meeting today. There's like an essence that's beyond the thought. It's not completely awareness, but it's not an image or a words or anything like that. It's like a substance to a thought. It's partly awareness and it's partly part of the thought itself. And this is what the ego is made out of, is this little concept. This concept it thinks is real. This stuff gets very complicated because it's not something that you can just explain to somebody, especially if you haven't, experienced this type of awakening. I'm just going to title this video, I Had an Awakening, or My Awakening, because it's what it is. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, I understand. There's a channel, there's a YouTube channel on YouTube called actualized.org that talks about something, talks about a theory that he kind of created himself. I think he's right, because, he's talked about some similar things to what I'm talking about now. And I never understood what he was talking about. I was like, what? Wow, this is weird, or this is different, or this is crazy, or something like that. And it's called the black hole theory. Basically what it means is that once you've gotten to such a level of awakenings and heightened awarenesses, anything that you say basically stays, any type of truth that you have basically stays in this black hole, because nobody's going to really understand you, and if they do, they're probably already in the black hole, or they're about to enter it. So if you don't understand what I'm talking about, don't get frustrated or don't get mad or anything like that, because this is a very advanced topic. I'm probably going to have more awakenings in the future, and I'm probably going to talk about them here. Not so that you can try and understand it, although you can try to do that too, but so that hopefully you can get a sense of this truth within yourself, with insight or by increasing your own awareness. And I believe, this is just a belief, but I believe that talking about this stuff actually can hold on. Sorry. Yeah, but I believe that actually talking about this stuff can actually help you increase your own awareness at least a little bit by me talking about it, because your awareness is aware of this stuff at some level. And don't worry, I'm not going to talk about any of this stuff for a while, because I pretty much explained it pretty well. And even if I do have another awakening, I'm not going to talk about it here unless it's, unless I can try and get you to apply it in your life in some way. That's usually how my awakenings happen. I've had very small awakenings. That's how I've come up with a lot of the techniques that I have made myself, and I've made a bunch of the techniques that you've seen on these videos. But this awakening was very large in comparison to those. It was shocking to see. I'm still working through it. I'm still trying to figure it out, so I might be wrong on some of what I'm saying, but this is pretty much accurate. And the reason why I'm really releasing this is because I thought it was so interesting that I thought I would try and explain it. Because, maybe it would give you a chance to awaken further, and maybe you would be able to understand this to some degree or to some level. There is one thing that I will leave you with, and that is identification with the ego will. This is not a probability. This is not it might happen. It will lead to suffering and negativity. And this is why it's important to become aware. It's why it's important to keep becoming aware, because the ego is not going to just disappear. Not without you becoming more aware. You're not just going to have an epiphany without doing these exercises, without watching your awareness, without meditating or doing any of the other exercises that I've talked about in this channel. None of this stuff can be understood unless you do this stuff. None of this stuff can even be really, applied into everyday life if you don't, have this type of awakening yourself. All I'm doing here is pointing a finger to the moon. What I'm asking you to do is to find the moon. Look up to the sky with your awareness and find the moon. This may not be as easy as it sounds, but it's worth it, because the insights that you will get will increase your growth exponentially. Yep, there's one other thing that too, like I've said. Well, that's pretty much, I've said this, but I can't stress it enough. The more you identify with the ego, the more stress and suffering and pain and anger and all the negativity, the more you identify with the ego, the more that's going to happen. And the less you identify with the ego, basically the more you become aware, the less this stuff will affect you. This is the motivation to get your ass up and ready for more awareness. Because if you don't do this, this is just going to be a concept in your head, something you're going to identify with later. Yeah, sorry about that, but that's true. It's just going to be another concept, and it's just going to keep you identified until you listen to what I'm saying and become more aware. I can't stress that enough because it's important, not just to disidentify from the ego, but to get these spiritual insights. If you don't get these spiritual insights, what you're going to get, even if you practice this stuff, is, I don't know why I'm doing this. Eventually you might get, frustrated or resentful or something. So that's why I always say you don't have to do any of this stuff. This is just a motivator. Because nothing I say here will help you otherwise. I may do some longer form videos because if this continues, because this stuff is very complicated and it's going to take a long time to explain. I mean, I think I did it pretty well. So anyways, this is the Wisdom Matrix, and if you do like this video, please let me know. Leave a comment if you have any questions, or if you have any criticisms or anything like that, or if you do like it, like the video, subscribe, and share it with others so they can get the same benefits as you did if you did get any benefits or motivation from this. This is a very advanced topic. So anyways, this is the Wisdom Matrix, and I'll see you on the next video. I'm going to make another video today, but it's not going to be like this. It's going to be about, I was thinking about writing a book called Many Paths, One Destination, but until I do that, I'm just going to make a video about it, because it's I suppose I have already made videos about that, so I might not. We'll see what happens. Anyways, this is the Wisdom Matrix, and I'll see you on the next video.